I bet you're wondering why you're hearing that music here in the afternoon on a Friday.
I'm not. I've been waiting for this for months.
We are excited to say, for once, good afternoon instead of good morning.
Well, we've done that 3 times before when we covered for other shows.
True. That's true.
But this is the new permanent, the new norm. Thank you for tuning in to K-Talk, and thank you specifically for tuning in to Prepper Talk Radio here at K-Talk every Friday from 2 to 3 going forward.
I noticed that business rock stars took our place this morning.
Woohoo!
I think that's temporary. But, yeah, we're very glad to be with you in the afternoon, and this was done on purpose. Mm-hmm. We intend at the first of the year to move to 2 hours.
So, for those of you who are always wondering, man, why can't we stay on and talk longer? Well, now your wish is granted.
Yes. And that, it just
wasn't
possible for us in the mornings.
Yeah.
So.
And for those of you who are like, oh, crap, I have to listen to these guys for an hour? No. Now you can listen to us for 2 hours in January.
Starting January 3rd. Woohoo! So the first Friday of the year. So, yeah, thanks for listening to us here on Prepper Talk Radio. And, of course, you got Scott and me, Shane. And you can always follow us on Facebook. We love to interact with you there. Please chime in. We have our podcasts on iHeartRadio as well as PrepperTalkRadio.com.
Mm-hmm. And Spreaker.
Spreaker. And we'll eventually be in SoundCloud as the studio is migrating everything over to SoundCloud as well. And others, so we're working on it slowly.
Rapidly growing, rapidly expanding. Now, for those of you who've never heard our show, this is a new slot, new segment time. So we want to kind of give a little background on who we are, why we're doing the radio show, and kind of give you an idea of what to expect as we continue forward in this time slot. For those of you who already know us, bear with us. You might learn something new about us in the next 20 minutes. The rest of the show, we're going to expand out into some other topics, but this slot, we're going to find out who are these guys. So, Shane.
Yes.
Who are you? What got you into preparedness?
That's one thing I'm still working on there, Scott, is who am I? No, but, you and I met, I guess it was middle of 2015, somewhere around there. And when you were starting up PrepperCon, and we just hit it off. And
actually, it would have been before then, because we met before the first PrepperCon. It was before the first PrepperCon,
when you were getting ready for the first PrepperCon, and reached out to me because of my blog, my little websites. I have a preparedness website called preparedguy.com. You guys check it out. It's where I like to blog.
And I actually found you through your Container Home site.
Mm-hmm.
And sent you a message, and within probably 2 days got a phone call back. And that first phone call lasted probably 2 hours. And for anyone that knows me, yes, I can talk for a long time. But this was actually one of those cool conversations where it was very dynamic, going back and forth both sides. And Shane's like, well, I really don't have a business yet set up to do the shipping containers. That's kind of more of an ambition I'm working towards. Then he pointed me to the Prepared Guy blog website, and I was like, holy crap, this guy knows his stuff. And we became very fast friends.
Well, yes, it was very, very quick. It was very natural. I had worked a corporate job for a number of years and got to the point where just wasn't accomplishing much in my own personal life, right? Mm-hmm. And so I quit, much to the dismay of my wife, and went back to real estate and did other things like that. Started a few little businesses here and there, and just kind of limped along for a couple of years. And then I met Scott through these websites I had created to kind of do my own little thing.
So back up for a second, though.
Yeah. What
got you to do those websites? What got you into preparedness?
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there. It's I think it's something innate within me. I've always been this prepared guy. I mean, that's kind of why I named my website Prepared Guy, right? I've always had that mindset, as far as back as I can think, and I can't pinpoint when, but I'm sure Scouts had a lot to do with it. Had something to do with it, and so many desires called my midlife crisis. That's what I've been considering it, calling it, is my midlife crisis. So
you're going to live into your 60s and be done?
Well, no, I was 40.
You were 40 then?
Yeah.
Was when you got into preparedness?
Oh, no, when I quit my job. That was my midlife.
That's where I'm referring to. I'm like, preparedness is a midlife crisis?
My midlife crisis was quitting my job.
I'll argue that all day.
My brain's all over the place.
Gotcha.
So I had to do something. So I made this step, and it turned out it was a difficult step, but I met Scott. And it got me into this world more deeply. It woke me up. I was able to wake up and see really the true state of the world. At that point, after I was able to get my nose out of my business,
you kind of ran down the rabbit hole.
I ran down the rabbit hole, and I'm still going down the rabbit hole, but I know where that rabbit hole leads now.
Very good point.
So,
Very good point. So it started out with scouting. It evolved.
Yeah, I
and
would
then
say
it went.
started out with scouting. Well, probably started out with, my dad,
Mm-hmm.
taking us deer hunting as kids and such, and not that I'm a hunter now. I'm not really a hunter, but I would always, of course, love to go out in the wilderness. I always like to say it that way. It's kind of
In the wild.
and it eventually, of course, went to scouting, and then, but I always had that desire to do things with my hands.
Okay.
I think that's an aspect of it. What about yourself, Scott? I mean, we know you also kind of came from the scouting background.
Yeah, well, for me, it started a lot longer or earlier in my life.
Okay.
Right. Some of my early childhood memories were I spent time with my grandma and grandpa going through their garden and with my dad going through his garden. And I remember snapping peas. I remember processing the food, getting it ready for canning. And I remember canning, a lot of canning. And for a lot of us, especially in the Idaho, Utah region, canning is kind of the background for most people who are into preparedness now is grow a big garden, you can everything you can, and now you've got your winter and everything you need until the next season, right? And I just thought that was normal. That's what we did. And so for me, switching... Playing with my cords over there.
Sorry to distract you.
For me, switching gears into more of a prepper mindset from just a garden, it really evolved thanks to my grandparents, the same ones that I gardened with. Actually, I gardened with both sets. But I was originally from Idaho Falls, and so farming was all around me. Gardening was a staple. Everybody had a garden. It wasn't until I moved to Colorado that I realized, wow, not everybody has a garden. But when I moved to Colorado, one of my early teenage years, my grandparents got me my side of the mountain. And this is right before I started scouting. I read the book. Kid runs away, moves up into the mountains up above New York, and finds his old family homestead and lives in the side of a tree and does everything all on his own, completely self-sustaining. And I was like...
And if I remember correctly, you told your mom that
I'm moving to the mountains.
You're moving to the mountains.
And she said, no. And I said, yes. And she said, no.
She said, you're only 8.
And actually, I was 11 or 12.
Okay.
She's like, no, you don't know how to do anything to save yourself out there. You need to stay here. And then also she grounded me, so I couldn't really go anywhere because I still believed in the
honoring your
authority
parents.
of my parents.
Right.
Now she grounds me, I laugh because, I'm 40.
You just say, I love you, Mom.
It's like, you're grounded. So that's really where for me it started, but I really wanted to get into survival, wilderness survival, and then that evolved into the Emergency Preparedness Merit Badge. Those are some of the first ones I did, and I was just like, I was hooked. And then it just evolved from then, and then as I got my own family, that priority became more important. I always had at least a 3-month supply of food. I always had a bug out bag. I'm throwing up the air quotes there because, some people call it 72-hour kits. I always had a 96-hour kit. I've kind of evolved into that for the last almost 10 years now.
Now we're calling it more the Ready Radius.
Yeah, the Ready Radius. And our radio show evolved out of everything that we were each individually doing. As I started doing interviews for K-Talk, promoting the company that I started, which is PrepperCon, which is held every spring here in Utah. The next one's going to be May 18th and 19th here at the Southtown Expo Center. So put that on your calendar. But it kind of became, I wanted to create the mecca of all meccas for preparedness in a positive atmosphere.
Yeah, and this was what brought Scott and I together. He was calling me about this, and if you would look at my long list of to-dos at the time, Preparedness Expo was on that list.
Yeah. And so quickly, Shane was volunteered and was full bore helping me helping recruit vendors for the event. We'd talk about the different celebrities I was talking to and became a very vital sounding board. We launched PrepperCon, and then within about 3 months of the first PrepperCon, we were on air here at K-Talk. They were like, hey, we love what you guys are doing. We love the positive spin. Can you do a radio show?
We hadn't even thought of that before. And
I was like deer caught in headlights, ready to get run over by the tanker truck, and I'm like,
It took us a while to get warmed up to it, but
here we are.
Yeah, 2+ years later, 124 episodes today.
That's awesome.
It's that's all history. So, and I think as we look back, I think that's one of the key things we talk about here on the show is looking back. Looking back, the further you can look back, the further you can see forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that's true, and that's one thing we talk about an awful lot. And I think it's true in our own lives to improve and perfect our own lives, but also our children as we move forward to live more like our grandparents taught us.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's what the show, that's what we're about, right? And the show, we call it Prepper Talk Radio.
Yep.
The term prepper, I wanted to get into that a little bit. Is prepper, what does really prepper mean? I mean, that term is fairly new term historically, the word prepper.
Yeah.
Before it was survivalist.
Well, prepper itself, stop it. I have it there for a reason.
Oh, sorry.
He keeps moving my my head jack cord, and
sorry.
I'm like, nope, I've got it the way I want it, how
All
I
right,
want
cool.
it.
It just
how I
bugged
need
me.
it. I know. So we decided to use the word prepper because historically it's only been around since just post World War II,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hasn't been a mainstream word. It was really kind of just a nickname for people who lived as self-reliant as possible, right? Whereas a survivalist is someone who is more
Purposely wants to live off the land or live self-sufficient.
but it's more harshly thought of
Mm-hmm.
in the world because they're like, oh, they're anti-government, well, and they may or may not be.
Right.
But survivalist is more of a harsh wilderness lifestyle, whereas prepper is more of a urban lifestyle, taking on some of the older ways like gardening and
Well, and I think the modern definition of prepping or a prepper is someone who is preparing for a specific event or a series of specific events, which may or may not be an accurate description, but I think that's really what the mainstream meaning of prepper is what are you preparing for? And as we come up on our next commercial break here, maybe after the break we talk about what are you preparing for? What are we preparing for? Why are we doing this? What do Scott and I see that maybe others don't see as a reason to call ourselves preppers, to prepare for a future event that may be life-altering, life-changing?
And what do you see as a listener? What do you see and what are you preparing for? So after the break, we want to hear your input as well because it's not just the Scott and Shane show. I mean, it's Prepper Talk Radio. This is engagement for everybody. One of the things I love about doing this is we get to hear a lot of things that we maybe have given little thought to or not thought about at all. And so that exposes us to a new thing for us to study, to learn about, and then to share with you guys because we're all learning from each other all the time. It's not just a one-way road. And I think the biggest thing is, as a prepper or survivalist or the hybrid of both, there's also the homesteading group. There's also the off-gridders. There's so many different terms, and I think there's more and more terms being made up all the time because each name can be given a negative connotation and has been given a negative connotation either by the government or by Discovery Channel or National Geographic.
Yeah, exactly.
They all like to kind of throw a monkey wrench
into
into something.
But I think what we're seeing here recently, as in the past several months, there was quite a lull after Trump got elected because, he's going to take care of everything, right? But then we see these natural disasters step in and wipe people out, wipe families out, wipe entire communities and states out.
Yeah.
I think people are really stepping up and saying, hey, you know what? I was completely unprepared for this. And so now there is a real life example that they have that they can say, this happened to me. I can't say this anymore that it's never going to happen to me, that it happened to me. And we see it happening to friends and loved ones and neighbors, and we don't want ourselves to be in those situations. Now, one thing we could talk about is what has hampered us becoming more in our current society, the way we've aligned ourselves, the way we live, the on-demand lifestyle, how that's hampered us in being prepared for those types of situations. And thus, as we say, the further you look back, the more you can be prepared for the future. So there's our commercial break. Thanks for listening and joining us here on Prepper Talk Radio. We hope you'll join us in the weeks coming. You're listening to Scott and Shane here on K-Talk, KBJA. We'll catch you guys after the break. Thanks for sticking with us over the break there. You're listening to Scott and Shane here on Prepper Talk Radio. And we're just talking about sandwiches. Over the break, what's your favorite sandwich?
There's so many different places, so many different good sandwiches, but I love a good pastrami sandwich. But, and this fits into our topic, so don't think we're going astray. But the Hook and Ladder over at Firehouse, pretty decent sandwich.
Yeah.
The Knickerbocker over at Gandolfo's, holy crap, that thing is delectably delicious.
I've never been a Gandolfo's guy. I don't know.
Certain sandwiches there are just the bomb diggity, and the other ones are like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's any shop, you're going to find lovers and haters of each type. And my brother likes a certain chain that's freaky fast, and I can't stand it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm
I had my first one the other day. It was all right.
It was, yeah.
All right.
Wasn't great. But this plays into our
fast, though.
On-demand lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Everything we do, especially living here in the good old US of A, we've been marketed so heavily to that we feel like the only way to live is on demand.
Well, not only that the only way to live, it's the way everyone else lives, so we've got to do the same, right? Mm-hmm. It's the keeping up with the Joneses thing, right?
How to keep up with society. Don't be left behind.
Exactly. And if you're not doing like everybody else does, you should feel left out.
Yep.
You should feel...
FOMO, fear of missing out, is real.
Yeah.
It is so real.
Well, take a look at Bitcoin.
Okay.
Right now, fear of missing out, absolutely. I think that's what's driving Bitcoin right now. But we're not going to get into that topic. I'm a big silver and gold guy, and so I'm just completely anti-cryptocurrencies. But I think that also has to do with where we're at as a society. Again, I'm going back to we've got to look back to move forward.
Right.
And so,
well, there's also the cycle of feast or famine, right?
Yep.
I think we've been feasting far too long, and we've forgotten what a famine's like.
Well,
we've forgotten to prepare.
That was normal lifestyle, the feast famine.
Yeah. But I think societally, we're coming up on a famine time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to destroy us. Maybe not as a nation completely and totally and utterly, but maybe it will. But the more important thing is what is it going to do for your immediate family?
So is that one of the things you're preparing for? As one of the reasons why you call yourself a prepper? You see where... there's a lot of different aspects of what you were just talking about there that we to prepare for. I hear there's quite a decline in food production. There's where everything is GMO, everything is not everything, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Everything. We're eating so much processed foods. It's shortening our life. It's making us sicker. It's making us fatter. And so there's a lot of aspects of prepping that we don't necessarily call prepping, but it actually applies.
So living a more holistic lifestyle is along the lines of what a lot of preppers are trying to do, right? Trying to create their own foods, trying to find alternative medicines that are better for you, more natural, healthier. But so here are the major things that I think categorize myself as a prepper. My major thing that I'm preparing for is joblessness.
Okay.
Right. I grew up in a household where my dad was self-employed, and we'd watch the feast and famine go pretty hard. There were times I don't know how we survived, other than the fact that we had food storage and they saved their money for the downtimes. And I've lived the same life at a much higher level, but I've lived the same life. Right now I'm at the tail end of a famine.
Well, and I think that's I know exactly what you're talking about there. But I think that's one thing that society, we're trying to improve, right? We're trying to become more stable, more, I don't know what the right word is here, more consistent, less fragile. But we're actually becoming more fragile in trying to get rid of these up and down cycles. Take a look at the stock market for one example. There's no up and downs anymore. It's just constantly up, which is making it more fragile. And that's kind of where society is going right now. We think we're going up. We're going up, up, up. There's no downs, right? We want to get rid of the downs. We don't want to deal with the
nobody
the
likes a downer, so we're only going to do uppers.
We're only going to go up.
So that's one of the things that it all kind of comes into play together. But living off of food storage and savings and different skill sets that I've acquired over the years during downtimes, that's what saves my family. Oh, yeah. Right? That's the number one thing I prepare for.
It's a quenching.
Yeah.
When you're making a knife, you've got to heat it up, and you've got to let it temper, and then you've got to quench it. And so that's what these up and down cycles provide in real life. When we don't have any, we're not getting tempered, we're not getting quenched, we're not getting harder and stronger steel.
And it'll never cut and keep an edge. So what the point is, though, is like I then also focus on my top 3 non-family disasters, but global disasters or region-specific disasters. I believe we're going to have an EMP.
Okay.
Or nuclear war. Both will have very similar output, right? I believe that there is a financial collapse coming. Whatever is the cause, it doesn't really matter. There are so many things right now that our financial system is basically hanging on by a lifeline of thread. And that thread could be cut at any time. And there goes our entire financial system.
Artificially propped up, which cannot continue.
So those are my big two. And then the next one would be regionally specific. When and if Utah ever has their big earthquake, it's not going to take much. A 3-inch shift of that plate severs all the electrical lines, all the sewer, the water, the gas, from everything above to everything down. And then guess what we have? Major catastrophe, major problems, and cleanup's going to take forever.
Now, is this based on fear, Scott? Are you scared about something?
No, not really.
Okay. Why is that? I mean, why are preppers, in general, we're not a fear-based group, right? We're doing this because we're scared something's going to happen to us.
Well, I look at the math. Number one, statistically, you cannot live your life without disaster striking at some point.
Yeah.
I've lived through the worst nighttime tornado in the history of Florida. Happened while I was living there in my area, bounced around and took out, and I spent 3 weeks helping clean up for that. That was horrible, right? I've had blizzards. I've lived in blizzards. I've been lost in the snow. I've been lost camping. Statistically, crap will always happen in our lives. That's what we call life.
And to ignore that fact is definitely denial.
And so I'm not afraid of that. I'm aware of that. And I think that's the difference. A prepper is typically more aware. And they take precautions so that they don't have to worry about it. Whenever I go on a family vacation, we reinforce our 72-hour kits or bug-out bags. We add a few extra items depending on where we're going, regionally specific items that'll help us so that we know if something happens, we're going to survive until we can get to a place of help or a place of refuge. That's just what we do. That's kind of our mode of operation. My wife loves it. She feels more secure. She doesn't have anything to worry about. It makes it feel more relaxing. So it's a better, higher quality of life, and we have less ups and downs as a result of it. That's kind of why I do what I do, and that's why I when I created PrepperCon and when we created Prepper Talk Radio, we use the word prepper because to a lot of people it's a negative word, but to a lot of people it's a badge of honor. Because we look at it as, hey, no, I'm not going to be afraid, and hey, I don't care what you call me because I'm smart, and I'm doing something that makes me less fragile, or as our good friend Cache Valley Prepper always likes to use the phrase anti-fragile.
Anti-fragile. And I think calling ourselves a prepper is definitely just a classification. It's just a word. It's all it is.
Yeah.
What I'm attempting to do in my life, yes, I'm preparing for those same things that you listed as well, Scott, is that I'm preparing for, I expect that there'll be a big financial collapse, a dollar collapse, whatever you want to call it. I expect that we'll have disasters. I don't think EMP is likely as maybe as you do. So that's a little lower on my list of preparing.
And that's totally okay.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. And but what I am attempting to do in my life and calling myself a prepper is to become more self-sufficient. Self-reliant, I think, is probably the better word. More self-reliant, because to be self-sufficient is extremely difficult. And
self-sufficient really says that I don't need anybody else's help.
Right.
Self-reliant is I can do almost everything on my own, and then I use trade and barter and negotiation to fulfill the rest of my needs.
It means I don't rely on anyone else for sustaining myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do that myself, but only in a community environment, because being that self-sufficient person, it's it kind of it says that okay, I'm pushing everyone away. I'm ignoring everyone else and just focusing on myself. That's not what a prepper is. That's not what self-reliant is.
Well, and if you go for those of you who are newer to prepping, or even those of you that have been doing this for a long time, prepping has evolved quite a bit to more of a group event. It used to be more of a family, community, small
survivalist
groups, right?
Tends to be more of a smaller group or individual hobby, whatever you want to call it, being a survivalist.
And now there are specific types of prepper groups who are preparing for specific types of things. And I don't think those are as widespread as the media makes you think they are. But there are groups that they'll have a criteria. If you want to be part of our group, you have to be able to do these things, or you have to be able to be we're looking for a blacksmith. If you can't be a blacksmith, we can't have you in the group. Or, we're looking for someone who knows how to, someone that's a horticulture specialist. Or different types of things. If you can sew very well, then you're part of our group now. If you're a doctor, yes, we're looking for a doctor.
Right.
Not a plastic surgeon.
Right.
Right, because
have very little need for that.
I mean, maybe you will because of, I don't know, nuclear war, I don't know. Fire
at least not as great of a need's not the right word, but not as great of a
demand
as there is right now.
Exactly.
for various reasons.
I know.
We won't talk about.
I won't get my boob job. But the point is there's different types of people looking for different types of things, and I'm more focused on how can I help my community as a prepper. And a lot of preppers, I think, are really that focused.
Yeah.
If I'm part of the solution, I can now help fix the other problems. If I'm part of the solution, I've eliminated challenges for my community and specifically for my family. Like, I'll know, hey, I can go take this and this and this to my neighbors and help lift the burden that they have. And in exchange, they can help somebody else or myself.
Yeah, we can't help lift others unless we have already risen ourselves up to a higher height.
Risen above the level of disaster.
Level of preparedness to where we can lift others out. So if we're not prepared ourselves, so it is maybe a little bit of a selfish activity at first, right? To get yourself and focus on yourself and your family, although that definitely
I don't think
not
it's really
selfish.
selfish. I think
that's not.
That's a great observation, right? It's not really selfish because, okay, I've stockpiled, X amount of food so that my family has food when we need it.
First priority.
Right? So that I have the food that I need, so I have the calories I need, so I can go help. I can unbury what needs to be unburied. I can move what needs to be moved.
So others don't have to help me or my family.
Right.
We're self-reliant enough that we won't need any significant assistance, let's say.
Yeah. And we've got fuels, and we've got, tools, and we've got all these other things that we can pool as a community. I look at my front yard as a future garden. Like, if there's ever a major disaster, it's easier to access. It becomes communal. Everybody can work on it. It's one of the more flat yards in the neighborhood. Perfect. I've got a couple trees that I've taken down. Wood. It burns. Keeps people warm.
Yep.
I've got a wood fireplace. Hey, everybody come to my house. I've got a wood fireplace. Oh, you've all converted to gas and there's no gas?
There you go. Yep.
Bring your cot. Let's hang out.
That's right.
There's so many different ways you can utilize your skills, your knowledge, and the things you've acquired over the years as a prepper to help others in a disaster.
Well, there's the one saying that I think everybody knows is that luck favors the prepared, right? And yes, I think we all need a little bit of luck, regardless of how well prepared we are. But that saying, I believe, is absolutely true. There's truth there in that if you are prepared, then you will be. You'll have the advantage of just whether it's just luck, being lucky, or skill. That's really what it comes down to: is skill. But definitely, luck favors the prepared.
Well, it's funny because religiously, there's the phrase, "If you are prepared, you shall not fear." And a lot of people are like, "Oh, preppers are so afraid of so many things." Well, they're not, because they're prepared.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my wife's going through the CERT program right now for Bountiful City, and as soon as she's done, then I'm going to go through it. And the whole purpose of that program is so that when something does happen, when there is a major disaster, you don't freak out. The whole purpose of it is to keep you calm. They do the training so you're calm, so that you're not freaking out, so that you're not causing more problems, but so that you can rally and help create more solutions. And I think that's why we do what we do, is the radio shows to help people get better prepared, help people be more aware. With it being radio, we can't show you all these cool videos that we find. And, you've got to find that on our social media page on Facebook. But, and that's easy to find, Facebook.com/Prepper Talk Radio, one word. Boom, you're there. But the key is taking a little bit of time, a little bit of effort every week, every day to be a little bit wiser, a little bit more prepared, a little bit more knowledgeable. And my favorite thing is skills. Skills and knowledge. That those things become wisdom because you know how to apply them and use them in a time of need, and you can't run out of skills and knowledge.
And you know what? And you can call it a hobby, call it entertainment, call it some type of activity to where instead of wasting my time, and I'm going to throw out video games as an example. Okay, what do you truly learn from video game? Maybe some dexterity, right?
So wait, all of my time playing Wolfenstein as a teenager?
Well, I don't know. You better shot. Is there? I don't even know if there's guns on that one, but
yeah, I don't remember.
But what I'm getting at is that practicing a skill and having fun at it is so much more valuable than just wasting time watching TV. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Is that it is not only important to be self-reliant, and it's a lot of fun. learning the skills and involving my kids with
It's
me.
empowering.
It is. It's enjoyable. It really is truly enjoyable going back and doing things the way our ancestors did things. I'm stepping away from technology. I'm putting down the digital stuff. I don't know how to program. I don't know. I'm not interested in anything like that. I'm interested in learning how to do leathercraft or forge steel and those types of things. So I'm trying to involve my kids and everything in that hobby. We'll call it a hobby for now, right?
Yeah.
And eventually it may be a very needed skill, but it's a hobby that these hobbies I'm delving into right now and testing the waters and learning, and it's a lot of fun.
I think you're making an excellent point too. Is like it's not all consuming, it's not overruling anything. What it is doing is it's creating opportunities for your family to do something together. Our good friend George, who ran the bug out run. He did with his kids. He takes them. They're right age. He takes them, does skills drills once a month, and we can talk about that when we come back from the break.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for listening here on the Prepper Talk Radio Afternoon, and I think hopefully you'll be driving home soon, and we'll catch you guys after the break. All right, welcome back to the show. You listen to Scott and Shane here on Prepper Talk Radio on a Friday afternoon, our new time. Thank you very much for listening.
Beautiful overcast day with lots of little droplets of rain every once in a while.
This morning when I got up to take the kids to school, I felt like I was wrapped in a nice little warm blanket. Kind of cloudy and not cold. Not warm, but not cold. Yeah, I kind of like these dim, cloudy days.
These are nice. Good to have.
Yeah,
tut looks like rain, right? we enjoy those sometimes. Now, what we were getting into right before the break, we were talking about kind of the skills development, and there's kind of a sneaky reason why we like doing that. I'm going to use my friend George as an example. He does a monthly skills test with his kids. He teaches them something different, and then he sees how well they can do it. And then he'll quiz them the next month on one of the things they've learned already. One of the things that I've really enjoyed watching is he'll make his kids race to see who can start a fire the fastest with a flint and steel. Or he'll make them race to see who can start a fire the fastest with a magnifying glass during the middle of the day. And, obviously certain things work at certain different times and certain different temperatures and climates and whatnot, But he has them test with different things so they know, so that there's not just one way to do something. They have multiple skills and abilities across the board. He's taught them how to process chickens. He's taught them how to process rabbits. He's done a lot of different things with them. But the number one thing he does with his kids is try to keep their minds open and engaged. They're a very fitness-focused family. They go do half marathons and full marathons. They're kind of crazy runners, which I love. They're a great group of people. I like to watch them run, and I'll wave from the sidelines and say, "Good job, keep going."
Not a runner.
But those skill sets, like I look forward. I've got a 6-month-old. I cannot wait till the time where I can start teaching her the things that I know, and seeing her be able to do that.
Well, I think the what I have the most fun at is like this last weekend on Sunday. We were out in the backyard with a magnifying glass with a Fresnel lens and some other ferro rods we got from Four Directions Bushcraft, and teaching my kids how to make a little tinder bundle, and not only is it informational, they're learning something, but we're having a good time together, and it's we're making those bonds of connection and getting them away from the TV, away from the electronics.
And were they smiling or crying?
Oh, they were loving it. And the thing is, I'll find them out back with their knives, just and away from the computer, away from the tablets, and I just love that, because for me that's much more enjoyable. You get a lot more out of it. It's good for every part of your soul and your being, whatever you want to call it, but rather than just working on the dexterity between your brain and your hands on a video game, right?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head. You're learning something. You're growing and expanding as a person. And if there's anything we're trying to do with this life, it's trying to improve upon ourselves. The best race is the race we'll run against yourself. All the races against everyone else doesn't really matter. When you're running against yourself and you're trying to improve over what you've already done or what you can do or learn something new, it expands who you are and expands your ability to be wise. And if we're not wise, if we're not spending our time correctly, if we're not, doing things that make sense for our family's safety, for our community's safety, for our nation's safety, for our prosperity, then we're really on a fool's errand. And that's what this whole on-demand lifestyle is really trying to procure, is as many fools as possible. Because what skills and abilities do we have if all we can do is digital?
So that takes me back to the question we asked right at the beginning of the last segment: is what are you preparing for? What am I preparing for? What are you preparing for? And I think there's a lot of things we could prepare for. We could talk about in detail. Okay, there's potential nuclear war, EMP, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like there's potential for the earthquake. There's potential for a lot of things, including financial disaster.
Well, example: bunker sales in the United States are an all-time high. Why? Because we have a president who has a Twitter account that has no filter, and we have a North Korean supreme ruler who also has no filter, and both of them are in kind of a pissing contest. Not to get political, but there are a lot of different things that people are like, well, I've got the resources, I might as well get one.
And there's plenty of different aspects of this which we do not want to discuss because we don't like to talk politics on this show. Please, no politics.
We focus on the preps, the preparation. What can we do? What can we learn? How can we evolve as a person?
So there's some fear there, right?
Oh, yeah.
That you could be, especially if you're near a large city, that could potentially be a target.
Yeah.
Or if you're just attached to the grid, just like all of us are.
Well, I really
there's
like
a big problem there.
I really like the whole idea that there's going to be a zombie epidemic.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny how many people, like we've got in Utah one of the largest Comic Con type conventions. So we have Salt Lake Comic Con, and it is hilarious how many people that I talk to, they're like, oh yeah, I believe one's coming. And it's like, interesting. And I saw a internet study the other day about how many people are preparing for a zombie apocalypse, whether it's real or not. That is the number one preparation going on right now.
And
I was just like, man, I just need
an
to
actual
label
virus
a
of
spoon
of some kind that takes over control of someone's body and they're living dead.
The living dead, right? I'm just like, man, I just need to go brand a spoon, zombie spoons and zombie forks, and
you sell them like crazy.
And I would sell them like crazy because people are eating it up, or like the walking spoon.
Well,
call it that.
Yeah, it kind of goes back
sell a billion of them.
to the entertainment part of it too. We all are so conditioned to being entertained at all times, and that's kind of where we're going back to. Okay, entertaining my kids with practical things, practical skills, but. So I know some people are preparing for the zombie apocalypse, and they're preparing for, potential global thermonuclear war. That's why bunker sales are through the roof. And some of these companies have a backlog for, 4 years?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Well, another thing people are focusing on is the pandemic, right? Maybe it's not zombies. Maybe it's some type of flu that wipes out a large percentage of the population. There's so many different things that you could be freaking out about. But the big thing is take a few extra steps and set up some precautionary lines, and you're good. My wife, after going through CERT, and she's almost done with it, she's like, we need to make sure we have a clean room. And I'm like, excuse me?
The ability to set up a clean room.
She's like, we need a clean room. I'm like, oh, you mean like a kit to be able to make a clean room? She's like, yeah. And so we went through, and I showed her where that kit was, and reminded her, this is where it is, this is how we do it. And we've actually scheduled a time we're going to actually set it up and take it down and buy some resupply stuff so that we can do it and we can practice it so that those skills are skills instead of just a knowledge point.
Yeah, I think pandemic is definitely something that we should all be preparing for because that's one on my short list as well.
So what is your short list?
My short list is, first of all, number one is financial collapse.
Okay.
Which leads into social collapse, which has to do with being able to get the food and the supplies you need.
Okay.
That's why we have food storage, is really because it comes down to a financial collapse. If the credit markets freeze up, there's no food getting anywhere. The stores can't buy food. People can't buy food on their credit cards and whatever. So that's, I think, number one is financial. Number two, I think realistically, is probably pandemic. Is probably one of my next biggest concerns. Although I think it is far outweighed by the financial condition we are in right now.
Oh, so. I agree. And with as quickly as we travel across the United States and the world, germs travel so many times faster. And so a pandemic is a possibility. If you look biblically.
Well, historically, not
historically,
just historically.
So many cases of...
Well, the Spanish flu itself wiped out, either 40 or 60% of the entire world population in its day. And that was just flu.
Man.
And so we've seen all these, without getting into details, all these different types of flu strains, bird flus and so forth, that go quickly around the world. They're controlled quickly, but there will come a time when they won't be able to. And maybe that's what they're considering this zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
If you ask me, we're already in the zombie apocalypse.
Because everyone's walking with their heads in their device and not looking at the world.
Their device.
The only way to stop them is a headshot.
So, yeah, there we go.
Bink. Not
Actually,
condoning violence.
Actually,
people.
with these guys, you just push them in the shoulder and just tip them over, and that'll take about.
It's actually kind of funny because just the other night at Scouts, we have Scouts at our local church.
You had a bunch of zombies.
And I'm walking down the hallway, and kids won't get out of the way. They're standing in the middle of the hallway, looking at their phones, not even talking to each other. And I'm like, wow. And so I jokingly pointed out the fact that, hey, guys, you three guys turn right, and you'll notice there's 7 girls right there. Why aren't you talking to them? These kids are like 16 years old. I'm like,
they'd rather be on their phones and talking to girls.
I'm like, who are you talking to here? Oh, we're checking on our games. And I'm like, give it up. Go talk to the ladies. We've created a whole generation
going on with this world?
Doesn't want to have interpersonal communication. Yeah. They just want to have that digital line. And even it's funny because even other people I know that in older ages that their lifeline to the world is now their social media because maybe they're either on house arrest or they think they should be on house arrest because of health problems or some kind of issue. But it's taking over the world.
And there are good things, about social media. There definitely are good things about, and I don't mean to knock technology altogether, right? There's a lot of good things that happen because of technology. We're talking to you guys because of very basic old technology.
All the coolest stuff that I find gear-wise,
really
I find from other friends online first.
And they're developed with this technology. So I believe in the blending of technology in preparing ourselves for the future, in having higher quality products that have been time tested, but also I like going back to the old tools that are made with new technology. It's a good blend. You got to find that blend, that balance, which I'm doing for myself here. Well, we got a call here. We got a few minutes left. Let's see who's on the phone here. Hello, you're live here on Prepper Talk Radio. Did you have a question or comment for us?
Well, I'll say this. Did your alarm not go off this morning? You're a little late, aren't you?
It was a forced sleeping in. They wanted us to move to a later hour, and we were good with it.
Yeah, and we want to expand the show to 2 hours, so this was really the only option of going to the afternoon. So we'll be taking from 2 to 4 starting the first of the year. So,
well, thank you for noticing.
No, yeah. So I'm a big fan of evolution.
Okay.
And I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I think so.
I think when we have a tragedy, whether it be man-made or natural, I think you're going to see a whole lot of evolution going on.
That's a good point.
A cleansing of the earth, and then on a serious note, actually, I look at the allegory of the olive tree, and some of those branches will die, and I think we're seeing that in the reluctance or the complacency on the part of many to really think about food preparation and preparation in general as being a prerequisite for their survival, so that they can, move on and develop in other ways. And I don't know how it's going to go down, but I'm not going to fear at all because I am doing everything I can within my power, whether that be small or great, to prepare. So I'm not going to fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Great comments. And I think that's exactly, a good note to end on here. Thank you for your call. We'll let you go here. But to wrap up, I think that is a perfect wrap up, is that we have no idea what is coming. But when you're prepared, you won't fear.
And nobody ever knows what's coming.
Yeah, but what we're trying to do is plant that little seed, open your eyes a little bit, help you to recognize really what's out there, what concerns, what dangers are out there, and how much fun and enjoyable it can be to become self-reliant, to get in touch with your culture, inner self, whatever, with your ancestors, with the way they used to live, and live more freely, more simply. And that's what we love. I think what I love most about this.
Well, I think it's kind of fun because we can take those old school processes, the gardening systems of yesteryear, and we're modifying them through things like, hydroponics, aquaponics.
There we go.
There's so many ways you can take those old systems and make them newer and make them more effective and more efficient. And that's the fun thing, is you can evolve the skills of yesteryear to be just as beneficial or more beneficial now with less time.
Yeah, and like the caller said, about the evolution, I think you'll be compelled to evolve, or you choose to do it now. Make that choice now, and for me, that evolution is actually stepping backwards, looking towards. And I've said this a dozen times on the show today, looking backwards and how our ancestors lived, and moving forward with that process, with that mindset. That's my evolution. It's kind of a devolution, but it's still an evolution for the way I'm living my improved lifestyle, quality of life. That's my evolution.
I think it's more not de-evolving, but more of a circular evolution, right?
Okay.
A revolution of evolution. We oftentimes think of it as a bicycle, right? The chain goes around, the chain goes around, the chain goes, and the chain comes back. Well, look at the entire history of the world. The chain always comes back.
No, that's true.
So this is a great opportunity to remember how to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Great way to end.
The bicycle principle of preparedness.
There we go. Perfect. Thanks for listening, everybody, here to Prepper Talk Radio. Scott and Shane here on K-Talk, KBJA. We'll be back again next Friday, and we'll have more fun and exciting topics for you. I sound like Mr. Rogers or something.